without further ado, I just wanted to introduce Katie and Nick. Thank you for coming in from afar, even maybe from the other coast. So please give a little bit of background on yourself, your company, why you're here today, and maybe your favorite airline snack, since you did fly within the past 24 hours, I believe.
All right. Katie?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Katie Agodnik. I am the Director of Customer Success Operations. Is this working back there okay? Okay, just making sure. And digital programs at Tatango, leading customer success platform known for creating composable customer journeys. Prior to that, I worked at Monster.com. That was really my entire adult life of almost a 20-year career there. Actually deployed Tatango for over 200 sales reps and customer success managers before I decided, hey, I really found my people. Not that I don't love my Monster people, but customer success for me was really where it's at. And I haven't looked back since, so. Nick?
Oh, excellent. Hi, and thank you for having us. Nick Chang, I am the VP of CS for Ariaka. It's a $120 million ARR cybersecurity company. Prior to that, I was at Palo Alto Networks running a 500 million ARR SASE as well. Before that, I was at HPE, running the Green Lake HPE as a service, business, all in the CS side of the house. No, I'm happy to be here. I mean, this is a lot of fun. And you talk about the snack, right?
Oh, I forgot about the snack.
Katie, you were holding out on us.
I know.
Can you please talk to us about the snack?
I want this information.
Very important.
So I am just the straight, typically have to have just the peanuts because I'm a gluten-free person. And so I'm really boring when it comes to the airplane snack.
You like the peanuts.
But I'm fortunate that I don't have a peanut allergy, so that's typically the only one that I can eat.
And hopefully the people next to you don't either.
That is true.
And Nick?
Good. I like the wafers. I'm a United, traveler. I come from San Francisco, so the wafers. I can't go wrong with you. Wafers or cookies? Wafers. That's the only thing you can get, right? So besides buying the boxes. So.
All right. Awesome. So I think I'm going to sort of turn it over to you guys a little bit here to share with us about scaling a CS operation. I think you guys may have some prepared comments, so I'm just going to flip it over to either of you to kick it off.
Let me start.
Who would like to start?
Sure.
So we were, as we're preparing for this, right? We were talking about maybe 3 key things that we think, as experience for both of us, has helped grow CS operations. My experience alone is CS operations is so different because the function that you have in one company may be different in another company, right? Some of them are, like in my company right now, they own renewals, quotes, you name it, playbooks, metrics, dashboards, and so on. In another company, they used to do that minus the renewals, plus they talk about training. So things like that. So you keep that in mind in place, right? But we found actually there were 3 areas, and we'll talk about that today. One of them is about the customer experience, about the voice of the customer, which is one area, the closed loop process we keep hearing all about and we know about. The second was, of course, the metrics, care and love. Sometimes get too many of those, right, to deal with. And the last one is about customer journey. So if I may just a little bit on the first one, right? As a matter of fact, I'm building it right now. Is how many of you have a voice of the customer framework up and running, active, working, and so on? Raise your hand. Okay, you see, it's not even 30% of the people, right? It's challenging. It's challenging to build one of those, right? Not only the fact that you can put on the PowerPoint how you're able to close process, and what we talked about here, you have, and the way I do it is the 3 phases. I call it the discovery phase, which is all the touch point from the customer. You name it, CSM, surveys, CAPs, TAPs,
I hear some acronyms.
All right, I get it. Customer advisory board, technical advisory board, it depends on what company. Some of them are more customer experience based, the other one is more product based, feedback. You have, of course, the support tickets and all that, all those touch points. The second piece is about engagement, and now is what do you do with all that feedback that you receive, bad, good, or indifferent? Because one of the biggest challenges that I went through in all the companies I work for is about how do we ensure that if a product A or feature A or RFEs, request for advancement, any of those features are there, how can we make sure that the product management team can take them out and then be able to say, hey, by the way, this feature is under consideration, and this feature is going to be right now on the roadmap. So now you can tell the customer through their CSM teams about it, right? The third thing is about now the communication mechanism, now how you share that back, right? We always talked about it, right? You would talk about portals. We have business reviews. You have calls. You have emails. You have a bunch of ways you can communicate and maintain that communication back in customers. One of the things that we dealt with my last customers, about my company, was we did good in the discovery and engagement part, but we're really bad at the communicating back to the customer. So the customer wasn't unaware of all the progress that we have done so far. Katie?
Sure.
Yeah.
So when I think about going kind of off what Nick said and looking at customer success across the whole of the organization, and what we're building today, we really had to think bigger than just the customer success team and customer success operations. Coming at a time where we're growing really, really fast. In addition to that, our customer success team had become that team that was really triaging it all, right? Because when you're growing and you don't have enough time to build all the processes to get there, we really had to take a step back and say, you know, we have our customer success team, but we have a really big team when you take a look at across the scope of onboarding, support, functional training, the engineers. And how do we maximize all of that brain trust and that subject matter expert across the life cycle of that customer journey as they're with you, as they're working with you, to make sure you've got this complex system that helps the customer at every step of the way. So it isn't just the customer success team owning it all. It's saying, hey, to the onboarding team, we recognize that you're great at fast time to value. Let's make sure it's quality, and let's also make sure that it's a mutual agreement to leave onboarding. Can you own that for us? We created charters. For the support team, can you be our ground zero for anything that comes in and help us triage that so the customer success team doesn't have to take that on as well? When you take a look at the success engineers, not only do we need your help owning the health of the customer in onboarding, but we need you to own it for the entire time that they're a customer of ours. And then finally, for customer success, we just want you to focus on adoption. I don't know, is anybody here a member of TSIA? One of the #1 business challenges that they said for customer success is measuring adoption and health score. Mm-hmm. And the leader of TSIA said, selling doesn't help, helping sells. Right, which kind of goes back to the leading conversation before about expansion. If you're continuing to create fantastic outcomes and helping your customers get there, then the expansion and whatnot will come. But we have to have our customer success team really honing in on that. I think overall, when it looks to spanning and scoping and creating scale, it created a culture of ownership, accountability, and customer centricity that we hadn't had in the past, of us all working together, all feeling that ownership to move the business forward.
No, that's absolutely right. Interesting enough, you said that. So I inherited an organization in my current company that were more renewal focused. Tied with renewal numbers, we have renewal, all kinds. Renewal with no change, or MRR. We call it MRR instead of ARR, just because we're in the telco business. We have renewal with downgrade, renewal with upsell, midterm downgrade, you name it, all of this combination of permutations, right? And one of the things I asked when I joined the company was, so how do we know that the customer's adopting our service before even renewing? The answer was, we don't know. I say, what do you mean? As you grow, we keep those in mind, right? Because I keep telling everyone, I need to tell the CEO about it, is you have to start. If you want to go a successful renewal, you have to start from the beginning. You cannot be waiting 180 days before renewal dates are over. Guarantees doesn't work. Because now you're fighting the battle of going to discounting and negotiation of contracts and all that stuff, which nobody wants, right? So in order to grow that CS operation, you have to have, and we'll talk about journey mapping in a second, is really from the very beginning, all those metrics, all the voice of the customer along the way, and we'll talk about the metrics in a second, allows you to be able to drive those. And last recommendation, how many of you have connection, real good linkage relationship with your product management teams? Okay, all right, but still, it's not 100%. That is by far is a must-have. And if you have to, sorry for if I'm recorded, shove your adoption metrics in front of them, show them. Because if they don't know, we have to tell them. And this is what I did in 2 companies, and even now. Okay.
So why is that so important? Can you just elaborate on that? Maybe it's obvious to some, but not to others.
Katie, you want to take?
Go for it. Yeah.
Connections to product.
Yeah, it's except for one company, none of the product management team knows what adoption is, number one. Number two, how to measure it. What they care is about features and functions and some telemetry that the product, whatever, comes up with, right? They don't know how to do that, I mean, to be honest. So if when I explain to them about, hey, we want to make sure that our product can be onboarded, let's say, your TTO, your time to onboard is going to be 90 days. I'll throw an example. It could be 2, it could be 6 months. It doesn't matter the time. We measure that way. We want to make sure as well, like in my world, because of the networking world, I want to make sure that the bandwidth that the customer is using is higher than X amount of gigabytes over a 90-day period.
Sure.
So I explained that to them, and they're like, what do you mean? So that's why I think it's our role as leaders to be able to tell them and share with them how we do it. Because now you can make a case to go to your CEO and say, look, this is how we are ensured that our customers are adopting and realizing the value of what they have purchased that way. Not by activated license activation, not by stuff. It's basically see how this progression goes. So.
And I think you're also the purveyor of all of the customer feedback. So having that direct line to the product team is what allows you to elevate maybe some things that were on your product roadmap that need to be on your that weren't on your product roadmap that need to be on your product roadmap. So yeah, it's just really important to have that open line of communication. I would say for me, running customer success operations for a customer success platform, I get the benefit of being one of the #1 customers, right? Because I'm running and trying it out things before our customers get to try them out. In addition to that, having been a customer has been a great way for us to be able to pass back and forth what we need to do for the future customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to jump to the next one, metrics?
Sure. Or were we going to go over survey?
Oh, surveys. Mm-hmm. Surveys and...
You were really hot on that one when we first started, so I'm like, oh, we should not.
Yeah, okay. How many of you have, what's your success rate for surveys? Let me ask a question. What response rate, not success rate? Response rate of surveys, I know.
90%.
Yeah, if I get 10%, maybe I'm happy, right? Yeah, it's interesting because I was talking to my CCO just now about, okay, how many surveys can you send to a customer in all touch points, right? You get the sales survey, you got the marketing surveys. You have the onboarding surveys. You have the support ticket surveys. You have the...
How did you like my training surveys?
I like my training surveys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of them. Yeah, every time there's a portal touch, Ben sends a survey. Mm-hmm. What are recommendations? That this is actually just on experience, right? Is let's not go too hung up too much on how many. It's looking for quality, right? If you send only one survey, if you send it to the right person and ensure that there's follow-up for you, it's a lot better than sending 1,000 of those out there. And it happened to me in bigger companies. We have to scale it down because we kind of forgot the fact that, hey, we're in front of the customer, you're getting all these emails and stuff. And yeah. The other thing also is about when you send the surveys, don't send them in holiday time. I told the marketing team, nobody's going to answer a survey in December, right? Or if you send it to Europe, nobody's going to be in between July and August, right? Because they're on vacation time. Or in China or in Australia in January and February. Nobody. So things like that we have to consider. And the last thing I will say is depending on your business, of course, right? You can say the NPS survey, the Net Promoter Score, or a variation of that. I've seen some discussions in there. The CSAT, of course, the CES, the Customer Effort Score. What I'm doing right now is we're combining the 3 into 1. Mm-hmm. So you have 3, 4 questions. That's it. Very simple, but typical thing. Are you demoted? Are you promoted? All those things, right? The normal stuff. But they will do it once. That helps quite a bit. What do you think?
So I have a lot of thoughts on this topic.
Please.
So I think a couple things. I just read on Intuit SurveyMonkey that people get at least 1 survey a week. That's 52 surveys a year from a business-to-business standpoint. So you have to make sure that your surveys are going to stand out from everybody else that's sending out surveys. In addition to that, somebody asked earlier if NPS is dead. And I think that, as I think it was Rob had mentioned, it's the most widely researched. I really love the simplicity of just asking on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend my brand to your friend or colleague? In addition to that, I think everybody has to remember that it is an individual measurement of a person's loyalty to your brand. It is not an accounts. So with that being said, there's a really great book. It's called Net Promoter, Implement the System by Maurice Fitzgerald. He gives you a lot of fantastic best practices if you're looking to dive in and get that NPS going. But as it relates to scaling your CS operation, there's not enough time in the day for you to gather from all the different places that you get feedback. And so when you take a look at NPS in itself, we do CSAT and several other things, but we've been able to make it, it's first off organizational. I don't recommend compensating your CSMs on NPS. It is an organizational metric. 50% of the feedback we get is on feedback. While our customer success team can absolutely give that to our product team, we have to directly give it to them. And so what we've done is we have 1/6 of our customers that we measure NPS on a monthly basis. Work your way back if you're looking to start this. If you've got 1,000 users that you're going to target and you get a 10% return, that's 100 people. One of the biggest things in that NPS book is make sure that you give back more than you extract. If your organization is not able or have the bandwidth to do that, then you might not be ready to take on NPS. Because the whole thing, at least for me, of representing doing that program for the organization is to give our customers back more than we extract. And in addition to that, give a feedback loop to the entire organization of what's going on in real time. So we actually send all of our NPS in real time into Slack. So every single day I wake up, it's the first channel that I check. What did our customers say to us today? And we have a very complex system behind the scenes utilizing automation, in addition to having a direct line to product on, hey, just like we talked about a culture of ownership and accountability, we're going to have the product team run with some of that feedback instead of expecting our customer success team to do it. And then that transforms you into being able to scale your customer external advocacy. Because once you've got those customers that are saying, we love your brand, instead of waiting to get back to them a few days later to go ask them for a G2 review or a trust radius review, you can ask them right there. And I think we've built, 150 to 200 external advocacy reviews just from the NPS, asking them to go out and talk about how much you love Tatango. So again, just going back to scale, those are all things that you leverage automation behind the scenes. And then from an organizational perspective, you have all eyes on what you need to do to continue to move the needle. In addition to that, I will say, and I promise I'll be quiet here soon.
Well, why?
TSAI also just published a key metrics for CS organizations, and it gives you a medium and an average on a bunch of different metrics. Anyways, I would check that out as well, just so you can kind of see once you do start looking at NPS, that where you fall. I know that software in general is around 38. I know that the average they had was around 29, but it'd be really interesting to see, right, how you're doing against either competition or peers or others in the SaaS business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's interesting because the numbers vary based on the industry that you're in, the software you're in. If it's software, full service, one product versus multiple products, it just varies, right? So that doesn't make sense. Since we only have about 7 minutes, we'll definitely make sure we have some questions. Metrics, so we jump into journey mapping?
Sure.
So let me ask a question. How many of you have a functional journey map agreed upon by all the parties and stakeholders in your company, and they're being followed by it? 1, 2, I guess everybody's in there. It is by far one of the most difficult things in the world. So don't feel bad about it because, even as you go through all this phase. 2, 3 things that I share actually about it. So number 1 is start from the top. Go to your CEO, go to your leader, CCO, whoever, and be able to say, I want to do journey mapping. It's not just only a fancy PowerPoint presentation that has fancy slides and girls and the whole thing and functions. So you have that, and then go to each one of your key leaders, your sales leader, your other product leaders, your support leaders, if you are not in the same organization, right? And be able to start mapping along the way. And then you have one more session with everyone. The experience that I have is the journey mapping is the way you have by task, by product, by tier, and we'll talk about that in a second, by persona, by maturity and all that. It varies because your journey map will change over time. For example, if you have a company that starts with one product, you have one journey map. But then you have tiers, 3 tiers, 4 tiers of accounts. You may need to have several journey maps per tier. I've done it because sometimes it's, TTO, TTV, time to value, is a lot shorter in one versus longer in the other ones, right? So that changes, even though the task may be the same. Maybe some additional stuff, like the additional POCs that you have to do, alone, and launch that time. Just an example like that. Then on top of that, if you have your company start adding additional products, then you may, in my case with Palo Alto Networks, you have to have several journey maps. The key thing about it is the content touch points with sales about it. It will help. Because now you can take the account plans and merge them into success planning and then get it embedded into the plan, into the journey. And then every time somebody asks, what's my role? Hey, I'm a sales rep, what's my role? I'm a CSM, what's my role? You pull your dashboard, so here it is. It clarifies a lot of things. There's no confusion in the field about who engages with the customer, if it's an opportunity owner, if it's a CSM, if you're sidelines, you're even leading the deal for upsell, cross-sell, renewals, or adoption. Sometimes some of the sales reps in some of my companies I work for, they want to be into adoption. I'm like, okay, well, get out of here, my friend. Make it work. So.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to just to pair off that customer journey mapping, if you haven't started already, you can start just with the basics. Do you have an onboarding motion? Do you have functional training after they get out of onboarding? Right. Do you have an adoption motion by persona? Do you have a renewal playbook? Do you have an expansion playbook? Don't forget, you're gonna have some risk in there. Do you have a process for risk? So just starting with those basics, I would say are a really good idea if you haven't started already. In addition to that, when you're doing customer journey mapping, another great podcast I heard is to scale, sometimes you have to do things that don't scale. And so when we first were trying to understand where do we even start, because you can get overwhelmed with trying to do any type of journey map, we took a segment of the business. We looked at every single customer communication by account, support, any notes, emails, tasks. We then were able to see from there who was asking what at different points in time. And so from there, we could also see the evolution of the different personas that we knew we had to build something for. So for executives, we wanted to make sure that we kept our company top of mind and made sure that they were it was a great purchase that they had made and give them confidence in that. For an end user, you're going to have different metrics that you're going to want to measure for if you're doing these different types of motions. And then in addition to that, if you've got admins per se, that really helped. It was not easy. We pulled a group of people together. It probably took ourselves 2 weeks, but from there we were able to move forward with confidence because we used that thing that we all love called data to be able to help be our guide. So those are just a couple other things.
No, it's absolutely, because those are foundational items, right? Well, we discussed 3 key things, right? So once again, the voice of the customer framework, we talk about all the metrics and the NPS, as well as the journey mapping will help you with what we consider as well capacity planning. How many of you are in the end of your fiscal year trying to figure out how you're going to grow your team? And how many more CSMs do you need? How much more money do you need for a platform like Totango? Things like that, right? It helps. All that foundation. Otherwise, there's no information, right? How to figure it out, the ratio, if it's now time to start switching from 1 to 10 to 1 to 50 right now, maybe it's too much, or go back. All that will help you scale as you think about a year from now, 2 years from now, depending on the company's growth.
I think we're going to have some questions for you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do some questions. Here we go.
Oh, well.
Here we are. Thank you for your questions. Okay, and you can, of course, upvote them if you want to change the order of what I read. Okay, what percentage of the customer journey should be automated communication versus online in-person meetings for a B2B SaaS company?
So for me, it's funny. It used to be called Tech Touch, then it was called Digital, then it was called Scaled, and I'm kind of using the empowered as we're trying to give and put together as many tools for our customers to self-serve, because we all want to be Amazon. So I would say the percent of your customer that should be automated is anything and everything that can take time off or take off the plates of your customer success team, your product team, anything that you can do to move motions forward so that a human doesn't have to should be automated. So I know that's not a percent, but it's probably a heck of a lot of the work that they're doing today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, nothing else to add, at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go to the next question? Just to make sure actually time-wise.
Yeah.
we can
Does
stop.
your CS team aggregate the product feedback, and how often do you share it with the product team?
Yes, and monthly. Basically, I mean, we start as simple as a spreadsheet. I mean, don't get me wrong. Let's start from small. Then after that, you can add tools. AHA. AHA is a good tool to
Yep,
collect all
that's what we use,
information.
yep.
You have, I forgot the other ones. We're basically just, a little more automated. Fill information. Not only CS, keep in mind, if you have counterparts on the sales side, you have the SEs and the sales team doing exactly the same thing. One process, goes through the process, and then you come back, and then you can see in the tool, oh, by the way, this feature's under evaluation. This is not even considered. So now at least you have something to tell your customer. Very simple. I mean, that has to be like on the spot. So.
How have you managed to communicate each team's members' roles to the customer and orchestrate teams internally regarding maximizing the brain trust effectively?
That's your.
Yeah, I see it's a question for Katie.
know,
Very
no
nice.
pressure there.
So I'm hoping I'm understanding this correctly. I would say from an internal perspective, it was a lot about change management, making sure that the charters were known, having those conversations with all of the different business leaders, and also getting agreement. It doesn't hurt, though, that now all of our basically customer operations functions all roll up into our VP of Customer Success, so we have great alignment there. In addition to that, how do we effectively communicate that to the customer? I think really similarly to some people that had spoke earlier, we make sure that we set the expectations with the customers when we're speaking with them, letting them know the roles that each person is playing. I don't know if I'm answering this as you were seeking, and by all means, you're welcome to connect with me afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up now. Please provide Katie and Nick a round of applause here. Thank you both for coming.